The Song of the Wooden Frog, a tale written by Sylvester V. Philip. Long ago, when people still lived closer to nature, and when the earth pulsed to the rhythm of rain and sunshine, there stood a small village on the edge of the rice fields. The houses of the village were built from bamboo and palm leaves, simple yet homely. Children ran through the dusty streets at dawn, while the women went to the stream to fetch water. The men worked in the rice fields, their bent backs becoming part of the land, their sweat mixing with the dust. In this village lived Lek, the old carver. From afar, everyone could recognize his stooped figure and long furrowed hands, which caressed the wood as if it were a living being. Many said that under his hands the wood came to life, and whoever owned one of his works would have peace and fortune dwell in their home. Wind chimes rattled in the windows of Lek's house, crafted by his own hands. Children often peeked in to watch the master meticulously carve wooden figures, birds, little dragons, masks, and drums. Yet in Lek's eyes, sorrow often glimmered. Long ago, during an old epidemic, he had lost his wife and son, and since then he had considered the trees his family. The roots were his relatives, the trunks his friends, and the whisper of the leaves comforted him in his solitude. The people of the village respected him, even if they thought him eccentric. Children watched with a mix of fear and reverence whenever he began a new figure, for it was said that Lek breathed a soul into every carving. Adults often asked him to make amulets or ritual objects, believing that the old man held the knowledge of ancient times in his hands. Thus life in the village passed, simple yet full of hope. No one suspected that soon a drought would arrive, one that would put everything to the test, man, beast, and the earth itself. One year brought an especially harsh trial upon the village. The usual rainy season arrived late, then failed entirely. The stream that once sparkled merrily between the houses slowed from a trickle to a drip, until only a parched bed remained. The fish disappeared, and the children who once splashed and played in the water could now only toss dry pebbles into the dust. The rice fields lay pale and thirsty, their green color faded, stalks drooping toward the ground. The farmers' foreheads were lined with the furrows of worry. What would their families eat if no harvest came? The women walked farther and farther in search of water, their jars filling with greater difficulty. Children's cries were often cries of hunger, and the elders' eyes reflected ever more grimly the shadows of the future. The people prayed to every god and spirit. In the center of the village they held ceremonies, lit incense, and placed offerings on the altar of their ancestors. Yet the sky remained a blinding blue, the sun scorching, and the clouds passed the region without leaving a trace. Day by day the drought grew more merciless. The village dogs and cats grew thin, birds left the land in flocks. Cracks in the earth ran so deep it was as if the ground itself hid its sorrowful tears beneath. On the villagers' faces, fear and hopelessness mingled. Even the children fell silent, as if sensing that the heart of the village was slowly drying up. During this difficult time, Lek, too, sat more often in silence before his house. He turned a piece of wood between his fingers, but his hands did not move. It seemed even the wood had no will to speak. Yet the master felt something was coming. The sighs of the earth, the mournful whistling of the wind, all whispered the same. Change was near, though no one yet knew at what cost. One night, when the village had fallen asleep, Lek could find no rest. The growl of hunger, the torment of thirst could be heard even in the silence. At last he closed his eyes, and in his dream he found himself in a strange world. He stood by the shore of a lake, whose waters were covered in golden light. In the reflection of the water, a gigantic frog appeared, its eyes shining like the moon in the dark sky. "Carve me from wood, Lek," spoke the frog. "Give me a body and a voice. and with my song I will awaken the rain to return to you." In his dream, Lek shuddered, for he had never seen such a massive creature with golden eyes. The frog's words echoed not only in his ears, but also in his heart. He felt as though nature itself was begging him to give form and sound to what he had so far only heard in the sigh of the wind and in the cracks of the earth. Around the lake flowers bloomed, though the season resisted them, and birds sang who had long since left the village. Lek knew this was a dream, yet more real than anything he had ever seen in the daylight. He understood that he had been given a mission, and if he did not fulfill it, the village might perish. Before he awoke, the frog spoke again. "Remember me, old carver. In the sound born of wood lies the soul of the rain. If my song is heard clearly, the clouds will return." Lek awoke gasping, beads of sweat on his forehead. His room was dark. Only the moonlight creeping through the window lit up the wooden block lying on the table. The frog's voice still rang in his ears, and deep in his heart he knew this had not been merely a dream, but a message from the gods and the spirits of nature. The next dawn, Lek awoke earlier than ever before. The village was still asleep, even the roosters had not yet crowed, but he was already in his workshop selecting pieces of wood. At last, his hands found a particularly hard piece he had been saving for years. He felt this was the very wood the spirit of the frog had destined for him. First, he carefully stripped away the bark, then began his work slowly and meticulously. With every strike of the chisel, it felt as if the wood itself was guiding his hand. The image of the frog from his dream hovered before his eyes. Round body, curved back, small yet strong legs. The block of wood took shape, and as the days passed, it increasingly resembled the creature of his vision. At first, the villagers only watched with curiosity, then whispered with worry, "The old man has gone mad. He talks to the wood." But Leg did not hear them. He only heard the wood, which answered every movement of his hand with a faint creak. He carved fine ridges into its back, working long and patiently. Often he paused to press his palm against the cool surface of the wood, as if searching for its heartbeat. Finally, when the frog's body was finished, he also carved a thin, smoothly polished stick. The stick was like the key of an instrument, the secret through which the frog could find its voice. The old carver's fingers cracked, his eyes watered from exhaustion, yet in his heart burned the faith that the frog's life would be built not only of wood, but of hope as well. As the days went by, under Leg's hands a miracle slowly took form. From the wood arose the shape of a new life. He shaped not only the outer form, but gave it inner life as well. He carefully sawed a slit into its mouth, carved tiny openings on both sides, and hollowed its inside so that the body of the wood would resonate. Thus the frog became not merely a statue, but was born as an instrument capable of giving a real sound, as if nature itself spoke through it. This frog was the one that could change the world around them. When it was finally finished, Leg's hands trembled with excitement. A few villagers had gathered curiously in front of the workshop to see what the old carver had been working on with such determination. Leg took a deep breath, then drew the stick across the frog's back, along the fine ridges. From the wooden body came a strange raspy croak, so lifelike that the children startled in fright, and the women raised their hands to their mouths. The sound was unlike anything they had ever heard, at once playful and deep, inviting and solemn. It was as if the frog's heart itself had spoken, calling out to the clouds. Over the village, where until then the sky had shone a blinding blue, clouds slowly began to gather. The wind picked up, and the trees bowed, as though they too were dancing to the rhythm of the melody. Leg played the frog again. This time, a longer, more resonant sound filled the air. The villagers looked around in astonishment, for at that very moment, the first raindrop fell, followed by the second, and then the third. In a short time, rain began to pour down, the parched earth greedily drinking in the water, while the villagers ran about joyfully in the refreshing shower. The people laughed and danced, raising their arms to the sky as their tears mixed with the raindrops. Children leapt into puddles, and the elders lifted their faces happily toward the heavens. Lex simply sat quietly on the threshold, the wooden frog in his lap. He knew that what he had created was not just a carving, but a bridge between man and nature. A miracle had been born, and the heart of the village was once again filled with life. The rain poured all night long, and the earth, once cracked and parched, now gratefully drank in the water of life. The rice fields soon revived. The stalks straightened, their green color returned, as though nature itself had been given new strength. Water trickled in the stream, birds returned, and the village once again filled with its old life. At dawn the next day, the villagers gathered in front of Lex's house. Everyone knew to whom they owed the return of life among them. The women gifted him baskets of fruit and rice cakes, the men bowed respectfully before him, and the children eagerly asked him to make the frog sing again. "Let the frog sing, let the song of rain be heard," they shouted with laughter. But Lek only smiled and slowly drew the stick along the frog's back. The familiar croak no longer called just for the rain. It now awakened joy in the hearts of the villagers as well. The sound had become the melody of the community, binding them to the earth, the sky, and to each other. That evening they held a dance in the middle of the village. The light of torches illuminated the happy faces. Everyone moved to the rhythm of drums, and the children's laughter blended with the sound of the frog. The village's joy was not only about the rain, it was also about learning once again to believe in nature, in community, and in the power of hope. For the first time in a long while, Lek felt that he was not alone. The wooden frog song had brought more than rain. It had given him back a family, every inhabitant of the village, who now saw him as the very heart of the community. After the rainy day, a new era began in the village. From then on, in every home, a little wooden frog was displayed, carved either by Lek or by his apprentices. The children quickly learned how to make it sing with a stick, and even during play, they often imitated the rain-calling melody. But the frog was more than a simple instrument. It became a symbol, the emblem of hope, perseverance, and unity. When the time of drought came again, the village did not fall into panic. Instead, they brought out their wooden frogs, played them together, and patiently waited for change. They believed that just as the heavens had once heard their prayers, so too would they answer again. Despite his old age, Lek was happy. Whenever the children laughed as they drew the stick across the frog's back, he watched them with a smile and knew that the miracle had not only happened once. Each sound, each croak was another promise that nature would hear the song of the human heart. Thus was born the legacy, the song of the wooden frog, which not only summoned the rain, but also reminded the village that humanity and nature belong together. And as long as the frog's song was heard, hope would live on. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please reward me with a like. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'd also love to read your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching and listening to this audiobook. See you next time. Bye.